What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Web3 DJs. I'm your host, Sticky Finger Jones. Got my co-host Hofstra, and we've got our one of our favorite people in the space, the only man that we know to sell out a project on both Ethereum and Solana, Mr. Alan Reyes. Alan, the NFT guy. Thanks again for coming on. Before we get into it, remember, if you enjoy this content, the number one thing you can do is tell a friend about it. Really, anybody who's tuning in right now, go tell your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your dog, your parakeet. Go tell somebody else about the show, because sitting here watching it alone, that ain't the life. Otherwise, the best thing you can do is subscribe on YouTube, comment, check us out on Twitter, and make sure you check out Alan Reyes as well. We'll have all of his information in the description. So let's get right into it, man. Crazy week in crypto again. Sharing my screen here, it looks like Ethereum is down 3.9% in the last 24 hours, but up 4.25% in the last 7 days. So it's about $1,098 right now as we speak. And since we have our special guest here from the Solana Slumdogs, got to go ahead and call out what's going on with Solana as well. We've got Solana at $33.81. It's down 4.16% over the last 24 hours and up 1.29%, or excuse me, down 1.29% over the last 7 days. So, like you said, everything that we're hearing right now seems like we may be getting another dip. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
I hope so, because then I'll buy more.
There you go. That's a
Do you guys know what the Solana high was at one point?
Yeah, it was like 250.
Yeah, it was like 160 or something. It's up there. It's like close to almost half of 200.
So, Alan, have you bought any crypto in the last week? 2 weeks?
No, so I haven't actually. I had some of the money that I had recently in crypto, I was holding it, but I was kind of like telling the signs of like noticing a downtrend if just by holding. And so for the last like maybe 2 months, I was selling off most of my NFTs, even if they were. It depends on what they were, but if they were just ones I was trying to like flip, I was letting them go because I was kind of noticing that it was been a small detrend and just kind of just to see where the space was headed. But I haven't. I actually bought some NFTs earlier today, but most of my money has been going into developing that marketplace that I got coming up. So I'm kind of tied up on that, but just like flipping some NFTs and just watching it.
Nice, man. Yeah, tell us about the marketplace. How is that going?
Pretty good. I just finished the white paper today, actually. So I'm excited. I'm gonna try to set up like a time where I have like a huge space, get a lot of my community involved, share that with them. But we're looking to launch it sometime in the month of July is when I want to have like the marketplace or the site where you can purchase the art up and then just pretty much just hitting the ground hard, doing marketing, outreach, branding, social media, TikTok, spaces, lives, everything and anything to get the word out there for what we've been trying to create while we got this bear market going on.
Yeah, for sure. I was telling Hofstra, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. You're the only person I know to sell out a collection on two different blockchains and two major ones at that. I'm associated with a couple of different projects and projects that I'm working with now. Explicitly say the name, but they're actually considering pivoting, and rather than launching on Ethereum, they're thinking about launching on Solana. So what was that like experience like for you to go from Ethereum to Solana? What are the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think the biggest hassle for me was changing developers. So like I have an Ethereum dev that I really trust, and he does all my work. I've done like 3 4 collections on ETH, so like I understand like how ETH works. So when I had a transition to understanding like on Solana, you need like a candy machine ID, and there's a bunch of other different things that you need as far as like the developer side that I didn't know you needed compared to like Ethereum. So it was just kind of dealing with the issues of like not really understanding some of the language. So it was just more of like getting another developer that I trusted enough to help me launch it. I think that was probably the biggest one. But I think as far as benefits, I think there's a couple more that you could extract from as a creator standpoint launching on Solana because it's just so much affordable. I've done like 70, 80 airdrops, and I probably spent like $30.
Wow.
Compared to if I did that on ETH, I would probably spend like $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, and that gets expensive, especially like with ETH and shit like that. How it is right now, like you're trying to save as much money as you can. And so as far as a creator standpoint, I think Solana is fucking it's awesome. I really like the like once it's launched, it's really I think it's really scalable. And that's the part. I think if you're able to create a large amount of initial volume to give you enough of what you need to kind of execute, I think it's very scalable because the transactions are not as costly as Ethereum, and I think that's going to play a big part in the growth of Solana over the next coming years, as far as like creators and things like that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So overall, right now, are you bullish? Are you bearish? How are you feeling?
I'm bullish on cryptocurrency overall. I am bearish as to what's going on right now, which kind of sucks, right? Because ETH and all these cryptocurrencies and NFTs are going down. But as Hoff said earlier, it's a great time to buy. Really, I think and so there's two ways to look at it, right? So like for me, I do Web3 all day. This 24/7. This is how I make my income. So I have to understand and find out ways to pivot and not be so dependent on what's going on in the market while being in Web3, right? But compared to somebody else, like if I was back in my Web2 position, I would probably be stacking up my fucking fiat and obviously like making sure I'm good and I have a stable job. Make sure you're not gonna get laid off. Make sure you have enough to pay rent. Make sure you got everything covered and you're just chilling and you're just watching the markets. I think now's a great time to stack up on Sol, stack up on ETH, buy into projects you really believe in because overall NFTs and cryptocurrency, I don't think they're going anywhere. Now, can we see dips and ups and downs? Absolutely. But are they going anywhere? I don't think so. I don't think you can make that big of a splash and just be like, all right, guys, forget it. Never mind. Like, that was a fuck up. Like, no, what the hell? So overall, I'm bullish on the ideas and concepts of what Web3 and NFTs and the technology. I think it's going to be it only makes sense that we move forward and not backwards. And so the next step is that type of cryptocurrency technology that's coming. Now, whatever it evolves into, that's really what I think once we get more into it. But I think that's where we're going next. And I just think right now we're just in the stages of like, okay, guys, we fucked it up. Now what do we do? How do we fix it? How do we improve it? How do we onboard people? And now is really the time where that's why they say that the rich people, are born in the bear market because now's the time when the real innovation is made and the companies and projects and people and teams that develop that innovation. If you're open enough to seeing that innovation through a bear market, when the bull market comes back on, those are the ones that are really going to be the ones to explode, and everyone's going to be like, "Fuck! I remember when ETH was fucking $500, $600, $700. Now it's some guy that I really and I don't want to like say it out like this because I don't and none of this is financial advice, but somebody I really respect that I believe is super smart and super like well, and he's already a millionaire. It's not all through crypto. So someone that I understands like Web 2 and Web 3, he thinks that it's very unlikely for Bitcoin to not pass 100,000 in the next coming years. Not in the next 5 years or 10 years. I'm not saying like that. I don't know. I'm not a fucking Bitcoin specialist, and I'm not a Bitcoin max either. But in my head, I'm just kind of trying to understand why he said that. Right? It's kind of okay. Why did he say that? Is it because he understands that crypto technology and that is the new just what's going to happen next? And once it's because I heard I think I heard this on Paul's podcast where Bitcoin's going to finally finish off minting in like 120 years. I don't know if you guys heard that. That way it keeps like inflation in control, and it's not just taking out all the Bitcoin. So it's gonna take it gets progressively harder for miners to mine the Bitcoin. I didn't know that, and I just feel like that type of like ingenuity and genius. That's just some shit that's like no way. Like that's gotta be something's there that is just being overseen, and obviously I think it just has to do with current trends and in like what's going on in the world, inflation, everyone's tripping, everyone's scared. But then a couple months later, all of a sudden, and it's funny because like I want you guys to think about it like there was a so I listened a lot to Alan Watts and his ideologies and philosophy, and he was talking about in the Great Depression, right? There was a time frame where there was a boom. Wasn't there a boom in like the 20s? I think the
Yep.
Roaring 20s is what they call it,
Roaring
right?
20s, 29s when I hit the
Making
fan.
money, everyone's doing great. The stock market, everything's hitting, right? Then all of a sudden, I think 1929, and I'm not that good at history, but I'm trying to get the close dates. You have the time where the Great Depression came, and all of a sudden everything's like, wait, never mind, we're not doing great, we're doing terrible. And then it's like you have the same amount of workers, you have the same amount of resources, you have the same amount of supply, you have the same amount of people. It's just a mindset and a shift. It's just like, okay, think about it. Like, what changes? Don't we have the same amount of material we had yesterday when we were 30 days ago? Everything was good. Well, I mean, it wasn't good, but like we were chilling, right? And all of a sudden, everyone's on. And so I think it's like it's just stages that we go through, and it's you can see it all throughout history. And I think that's what we're going through right now.
Well, so here's a similarity to that time, right? People were over leveraged. People were speculating. There was not regulation. The SEC wasn't in, so you can manipulate the markets. And that's what happened. And when they did a run on the bank and people freaked out, it basically took the whole house of cards down. And so you're seeing this right now in the crypto markets. Like these people are getting liquidated because these big institutional investors allowed them to trade on leverage. And then when their positions got called, what did they have? So they just took their money back, and they're not in business. And there's big people doing this right now. So there's two ways to look at that. People are allowing it maybe because they want to scoop those assets up on the cheap. Like if you had enough money and you tank the housing market, you can go and pick up houses on the cheap, right? Or companies. But I think what's going to happen right now, and I've been hearing this a lot, is consolidation. You're going to see consolidation in crypto, and you're going to see it in NFTs. Because at a certain point, the whole market, I feel, is overvalued. Does it make sense to have a JPEG? All of these JPEGs hit 100 million valuations in 3 months. Like if you compare that to like a traditional market and traditional business, how often does that happen where all of a sudden it's like this company's been out for 3 months and it's worth $100 million? Does that even make sense? And now there's 100 of these?
Right.
So I think what we're experiencing is natural, and I think it's going to flesh out what the real value is of these things. And it might take some time, but as you get mass adoption and more people coming in the space, I think the average person is going to look at this and take a look at the market cap and go, okay, these pictures, and if you take all of them, you add them, like, what are they worth? Is it really worth that? I don't know. But in the first year it was, because there was nothing to base it off of. It's not like you've got 30 years of data and, market caps and sizes and, stuff that you can compare. So of course it's all speculation. Of course it's high. Of course it's, WAGMI vibes and everything's going to be great. But,
that's the other thing that like I definitely want to call out is people are attempting to say, well, based on XYZ and trying to read the Ethereum chart and say it's going to do this, that, or the other. It's like Ethereum has had one cycle. So we really can't use any sort of chart or traditional chart patterns or anything like that to attempt to predict what's going on. And Hofstra, I also wanted to call it out. You're not going to get away with this. Pull you back on the big screen. You rocking the full send right now?
Yeah, I got the full send.
Okay, I see you. #1 podcast, I think, on the planet. So yeah, that's some great inspiration. But yeah, anyways, one of the things that I'm pretty bullish on, especially speaking of full send and their brand and that sort of thing, is big companies are still coming into the metaverse with logos. They are attempting to make it so that you can kind of visualize a project in the metaverse before you bring it home and before you do it. We saw it with Lacoste, whatever they're doing. And most recently, look at this. Gucci files trademarks to enter the metaverse. Jeff Pratt breaks down Gucci filing multiple NFT and metaverse-related trademarks. Wow. I mean, that's pretty bullish. Now let's take this a step further, and no offense to Gucci here. Louis Vuitton filed 4 trademark applications indicating plans for NFT, virtual goods, digital collectibles, and NFT, virtual good, and digital collectible marketplaces. On top of that, they filed the trademark for financial services related to NFTs, digital goods, and digital collectibles. I mean, this is huge. If this is not bullish, then I guess I don't know what is.
Yeah, like all you had to do is go to NFT NYC and see the amount of legitimate businesses and CEOs from like movie studios, clothing brands, like compared to when we were there last year, it was like 5 times larger, and the amount of legitimate business that was sponsoring these events was insane. It didn't feel like you're in a bull market. It was like, oh my gosh, like, are we missing something? Because this seems like everybody's trying to figure out what's going on and how can they get in it, not, oh my gosh, let's run. So when you're talking about being bullish, I'm so bullish on NFTs, but it's like tread lightly, because I don't know that you're going to see things pop off like they were last year. I think people are going to be a little bit more reluctant to spend money, especially if you're trying to decide, do I have the money to buy gas and food, because all of those have gone up, or do I put this in a risky asset like NFTs, right? So until that starts to get better and people have a little bit more disposable income and the economy straightens out, I don't think that you're going to see a huge spike. But when it pops off, I think it's going to pop off quick again, because there's going to be a second rush. And I we'll see how things develop, but it's an interesting time to be in the NFTs, man. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think also happens sometimes is when people, like, the narrative goes to like everyone's panicking and we're all kind of like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be in NFTs, and then all of a sudden, like, you have these big companies that obviously, hopefully a lot of them are already liquid, but you're like, okay, we're gonna get set up, so by the time this thing blows up, we're there. And then for the people that got out, it's like, oh wait, never mind. But then the people that left, it's now 10 times harder to get back in because of how rapid it expands. And so I think of it like kind of like watching Bitcoin at like fucking 20,000 a couple years ago, and then it dropping down to 9 or 7 when it did, and then people were like, fuck yeah, it's a fucking scam, and then all of a sudden it goes to 60. I think that's what's the trend that usually ends up happening. But I would agree with Hofstra. It's kind of like the tread lightly. That's why it's kind of like, don't overextend yourself. Pay, take care of your bills, make sure you got your job, do whatever you got to do. But if you're not doing that, then just really watching, because I think it's a great time for. The Doodles just announced Pharrell as their CEO, or no, not CEO. Is it was CFO, or what was he?
Creative director.
Creative director, and that's big, because that's. And then Eminem with the Snoop Dogg video, like, it's still gonna be here, and it just has to be developed and evolved into whatever's next. But what I really do wanna I like how Hoff, you were saying that at the beginning there wasn't really much to compare it to, and there wasn't really like a lot of what was it? It was more speculative, so that's why there was a lot more games going on, because there was nothing really to base it to, but people were just excited about it. And I think that for me tells me, like, okay, whenever you notice that this is the same trend that's going on, notice when to get out. That's just, to me, it's training me, because this happens I feel like this happens everywhere in a bunch of industries where things are just doing so great, but the people that know, they know, and the people that don't, they kind of just start watching. But I feel like if you're ready for, like, okay, there's going to be something, and I'm going to say it right now, like, there's going to be something. It's either going to be a new invention, a new type of smart contract. There's going to be something that's going to be like a signal for, like, okay, this is the new Web 4 or whatever, whenever it comes. We're not having gotten to it. But that, to me, is like, okay, get it when you can, when it's there, and also don't be overextended, so that when it might crash again, because this thing still has to be developed to the next level, and knowing when to get out when I need to. So I think it's kind of like, I feel like if you stay, you'll make it long term, and if you leave, you just won't ever have that fucking, even if you get wrecked, like, you just won't have that tenacity and that perseverance to figure it out, and that's what's your downfall, I think.
It's harder right now though, because 6 months, 8 months ago, you're getting big gains. You're getting 100, 50, 20, 10x returns. Right now, things aren't moving as quick. So It's like you're gonna have to sit. And if you just think of stocks don't move that fast. You got to be in them, and you're happy to get a 3x return over 6 months or a year. Like a 30% return is incredible in the stock market. It's just
we
not
were
normal.
like 1,000% returns on fucking NFTs. And
Yeah, but that's where it's like even in the ICO phase, like when everybody was making money on shit coins and that whole thing, that died out, and you had this NFT thing popping off, but it's just normalizing. It was fun if you're in that and you could catch it, but the reality is the people that made money in that time, they made money because they timed it right. It's not like they even tried. You just had to be in the space. At a certain point, it didn't matter what you buy. You could buy any NFT almost, and it would go up.
No, 100%. There was a time where we did 10 calls and 8 of them hit. And I was like, damn, I'm either really good at this or I fucking mastered NFTs. And now the last 3 I bought have fucking gone down. And I'm like, what am I doing? I thought I knew what to do. It's like just a different time.
Yeah. But you know what I've been doing? I've been trying to buy underpriced good projects. Like I bought a gutter pigeon at 0.86 3 weeks ago. And then some news came out. It's at 1.25 right now. So I could exit it and be cool, right? But all I'm trying to do is just double, get out of a position. Okay, what else is underpriced that's got room to move, that they're not talking about, but we know is that they're active in, where my money is going to be safe, and then maybe move it over there. Or maybe I just wait to see if it goes back down, because in this space, things move on news and speculation. Like right. I was trying to figure out, well, why did gutters just jump, right? Well, it was because they came out with something saying that you can upgrade your clone, and then people are like, oh, we're in the third quarter now, and there was no real reason. It was like the guy that was in the project tweeted something about like a DNA strand, and then all of a sudden like the community hyped and everyone got in. But like what you're gonna see is maybe like a day or two, and then that hype's gonna fall off. And if there's no new news, people are gonna exit and it's gonna come back down. So then I'll try to buy again here and then get in and out of projects I'm kind of following that I think have that. I bought a Deadfellas, and the reason I bought a Deadfellas is because I've seen it now go from 1 to like 1.75, 1 to 2. It's done the same thing over and over. So I'm betting on the likelihood of that happening again. And all that really needs to happen is some news event or some partnership or something, and you'll get a half ETH jump. It's not going to be a 3x or a 5x, but you can get in and out. So I'm trying to just stack up. So then I have, maybe, 5, 10 ETH that I'm going to try to buy good projects that I'm like, I'm on the house money. I think I'm okay here, but that's at least.
Yeah. So speaking of stacking up, I want to share this with you guys, and I wanted to actually ask you about this, Hofstra. So I found this tweet earlier today, and I shared it with some of my homies. It says 73 days ago, this gentleman named Ryan Carson bought this Moonbird for 69.49 ETH. That was $212,000 at the time. Okay. He just sold it today for 143.69 ETH, but at $160,000. This just said it's a master class in how to stack ETH while also booking a tax. Isn't that crazy that he more than doubled the Ethereum, but still took over a $60,000 loss?
That's slick, man. That is such a good trade, especially if you're long on ETH. You just doubled your ETH stack and took a loss. So if you just wait and it goes back up to 4,000, you just crushed. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is a big if, right? And the other opportunity is always like, what could you do with that money in the long run? But yeah, I definitely agree that is definite. If you're
one ETH is one ETH.
Right. Sure, absolutely. And I've even seen people say during this market, I've turned off on OpenSea the US dollar comparison because they no longer want to think like that, especially in a bear market. They just want to look at things as ETH. ETH is ETH. So yeah, it's definitely a really interesting proposition.
There's a lot of... No, sorry, I was going to say there's a lot of other projects like that, even on like Bored Apes and Moonbirds just in general. You can buy them about what you were buying them for, 3 months ago. Like the ETH price hasn't changed, but the US dollar price is the equivalent of what, you could have bought them. So like there's a lot of opportunities if you're just looking at US dollar, like, hey, if it's 17,000, I can buy it at 17,000 when it's, 9 not that long ago was double that. But people like it's interesting to look at NFTs in a US dollar comparison, because for a long time you didn't, you know, and now it's like you're starting to compare US dollar numbers to the value of these things.
Yeah, so let me ask you guys this, because Hofstra, you brought up a point just a minute ago about how you were looking for good projects that you think are undervalued. In my opinion, right now in the space, a lot of like the value proposition of projects is kind of the same. In real life events, I'm gonna give you some merch, and we're a sick community. I mean, how do you two define good projects?
I think
Yeah, go for it.
I think it. So it's funny because like so for me like I'm a project creator and you know I, my stuff. It depends on what you're thinking, right? So like I'll give an example. If I buy into a project because I want to flip it and it gets to my goal that I want to flip, I'll just be like, that's a great project, right? Because it got me to my goal that I wanted to flip. But as soon as the project goes down, most people think, oh, it's a shitty project, right? Because they didn't triple X our money as we wanted to, right? I think what defines a good project, and it depends because I'm not solely counting it on like profits that you make for holding a project, but I think if it adds value to your life, whether it's financially, mentally, spiritually, community, a group of people that help you level up, right? Because I think these are really just I look a lot of these as like networking opportunities, right? I created that POC thing and I just invited Hofstra to it. Jones, I'm actually gonna try to get you one too. But it's just where I'm inviting people that I feel like bring value to the space. And I just want to have genuine conversation because me being around you guys, being around Hoff, somebody that has that Web 2, Web 3, and for me, like I have my business, it helps me understand like, okay, maybe I can do this, A, B, and C. And that's valuable. The opportunity that I get to sit down with other people in the space that have different type of experiences is valuable. I think it's just I think the value is also derived on how much you want to get out of it, right? Because I can work a community. Dude, a lot of celebrities are in these communities, a lot of millionaires, a lot of wealthy and connected and you know skillful, and there's a bunch of people. So that to someone, I could reach out to someone in a project that knows somebody that I need to connect to, and then all of a sudden I land a Web $2 million deal because I spoke to this person that connected me to that person. That's value. And people go to events in Web 2 and spend thousands of dollars to get the same thing. And so I think as long as it adds value to your life in some way or another, I think it's a good project. But that's, you know, it's a lot of it's up to you, right? Because someone might go into my community and be like, what is this? I don't care. But they don't see that I come into spaces and talk about like Web3 and its future and its growth. Someone might look at that and be like, that's value to me, that there's a creator that's not only in Web3, but he's also out here teaching, educating, informing, entertaining. That's valuable to me, right? And so I think it depends, but for me, it's like as long as it brings value to your life in one way or another, and you see that, you know, you'd rather lose $100 than not be in this community, then that's value. So
yeah, no, I agree with everything that you just said, and I've actually had a lot of conversations recently with like the back alley group that I'm in about this. Like, what am I actually buying, right? When I own an NFT, technically, I don't like. Am I an investor? I don't know. I don't experience the upside of the profit, right? Usually the creators and the founders are the ones that make money, but I can make money if the project goes up. So there's value there. And so if people believe that this is valuable or to your point, want to be in this group of people, it's almost like I look at it more of like a membership club, and it can be a couple of things. Like if you look at, I've known some people on Twitter when they started that had like no followers, right? They're over 10,000 followers simply because they've been active in a community, and that community has supported them. I've also seen people spawn off and create their own projects, and the people that like backed them basically were the people that they met in these communities. So it's helped them kind of start a new life as maybe an artist. We heard that from the Bushido Apes guy. You know, he was in the Bored Apes, and then he started one, and now he's a full-time artist.
From a restaurant operator to an artist. Yeah.
that wouldn't have happened if you weren't an NFT. So I've seen so many people literally change their career path and do so many different things because of NFTs, or start working in Web3 with the community and have that experience. So the community absolutely is important. But then I've also been in projects where I'm like, I don't give a shit if it's, $10,000. These guys are dipshits and I don't want to be in this project. I don't vibe with these people. I don't want to rock PFP because I think you guys are whack and people aren't real in here. You go over to one project that you might not even spend that much money, but you get so much value at. Like, I'm diehard in this project. And so you really have to figure out what your taste is. And the other thing is, like, how many projects can you really be active in? You can't be active in 30 projects. What I found is it's better to be active in like 3 or 4 and really be in the community, and you'll get way more value out of it. But even if you look at like $1 per conversion on social media, there's people that pay for followers, right? So let's say you spent $500 on a project, but now you've got 3,000 new buddies and they all like rep everything that you do and retweet your shit. How much did you pay for that per follower? I mean, there's people, if they're looking at it like that the engagement that they get out of it dollar for dollar is like, it's well worth what they're getting from it. So it's kind of like music. You need to find your taste. You need to figure out who your community is. Are these people that you vibe with? Do you have a common philosophy? Are you going to want to like show up and talk to these people? Because if not, then why are you in it?
For sure. I will say that is one of the biggest eye openers for me at NFT. I did not go to NFT NYC, but just looking at the pictures was the types of individuals within certain projects. And I'll just say they didn't always look like someone I might want to hang out with. Which, again, never judge a book by its cover, but books have covers for a reason, right? So,
but that's also interesting. I guarantee there's tons of people I would have never hung out with, but we have a common bond in NFTs, and now there's some people I talk to all the time.
Yeah,
I've actually learned so much from these people that we have that common bond in NFTs. And it's almost like if you're not in it, then you don't get it. Like, you're a normie. Like, we're into something that the rest of the people don't know. You're going to make fun of us, but we don't care. Cause it's almost got this like rebel feel. I likened it to like the hippie movement back. It's like a Web3 hippie movement, where it's this new culture, this new thing. People are talking shit about it. But yeah, it's a lot of love. It's like, it's kind of just cool vibes. And, if you get it, you're into it. If you don't, you're not going to understand it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, so I know that you're a busy man. Again, thank you so much for coming on, Alan. Like we said earlier, one of our favorite people in the space. Since we're close to time, just wondering if you guys had any closing thoughts, anything you wanted to talk about we didn't hit.
I think, man, I don't know. I think just, if you're in the space, I think now's a great time to really just, relax, enjoy yourself. Don't get so caught up. And like I said, for me, a lot of this is learning experience, right? Even if I fail, I go down, and I'm like, okay, where did you falter? How can you improve for the next time this comes around? And how can you pivot from that, right? Instead of like, oh, you know what, fuck this, I hate it. No, there's a bunch of great value that I got out of it. And I think it's going to continue to grow. So for me, even though like the market's been down and things are not looking so good there, it's a great time to take all that into consideration and use it to learn. And, whenever the next thing comes around or whatever happens next, I'm ready. And I have the experiences and knowledge from the past that can help me guide myself for a better future, I think.
We always say you never lose if you learn. Right there, for sure. Hofstra, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I would say enjoy the process. If you're not having fun in NFTs, then why are you here? Like, that's at the end of the day, it's the experience and the connections. And, like you were saying, learning, like the whole reason I got so into NFTs is it blew my mind to see this is how business is going to be ran 10 years from now. And it kind of reminded me when social media first started, how people like, they couldn't imagine, why would you be on Facebook? Why would you be on Instagram? Like, or like a job that someone has as a social media manager was like not existent. It was almost a laughable thing. Fast forward now, it's like, if you don't do that, it's almost like, what are you doing? And I think the way that Discords were ran and the community engagement, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, like this is going to be customer service in the future. NFTs are going to be where companies, you have a membership club and you get this access that you don't get. And it was just like so fascinating to me from a business perspective that I was like, I want to be here just so that I'm current on the trends, so that I know what's going on, because that's how you do well in business. You got to be on the front end of these waves. If you're catching it way over here, you miss the boat. But if you can hop on and hit things timing right and take all this stuff that we're learning and apply it, like, you're going to do really well. You might get laughed at a little bit, but when everybody else catches on, you're going to be years ahead of them. So I would say enjoy the process and learn. Just be a student of the game, and right now is a really good time to learn.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. So my pull it up one more time. We mentioned earlier all these brands are coming into the space. I want to highlight Louis Vuitton specifically because I was listening to a podcast about an individual who worked on the exec team for Louis Vuitton, and they said Louis Vuitton does not make a single move with their business without having the thought of what this is going to do 100 years down the road. So many businesses in Web 2 and Web 3 are operating in the short, and to see a company like this at their core does not do anything without that 100-year mindset come into NFTs, to me, I think that we're in a really great place. We're right where we need to be. The other thing I wanted to share, again, Alan, thank you so much for coming on. Here's his social. We'll make sure we plug all of that in the description. Again, creator of Crypto Cannibal, Solana Slumdawgs, one of our favorite people in the space. Thank you so much for making time to hop on kind of in the spur of the moment. And to all of you listening who tuned in, thank you all so much. Your support is what drives us. If you enjoy this content, like we said at the beginning of the show, tell your friends about it, tell your mama about it. She needs to hear it too. Otherwise, I'm Sticky Finger Jones. This is Hofstra and our good friend Alan Reyes. Until next time,
peace.